Are you ready?
As I'll ever be.
All right. By our powers combined. Welcome to Zarnia for Games and Geekery. I'm Jon.
I'm Adhil.
And we're bored to be wild.
We are.
I honestly thought you were going to harmonize there with me. Like just a little.
Been a while.
Just against all experience and everything I knew about you, I really thought that this time you were going to harmonize with me.
So what are we reviewing today, Jon?
We are reviewing Ankh. Ankh is a game that's very close to your heart. Why?
I like the Egypt theme, right? Mm-hmm. And it's our first game that involves Egypt, isn't it?
Yeah, we've never reviewed a game about Egypt on this channel before, ever. Yeah, I mean, personally, if someone did that while I was incapacitated, I would feel robbed, betrayed, hurt.
We'd never do that to you, Jon.
Great. Anyway, so back to Ankh. In a nutshell, what's the game?
So we're playing as gods of Egypt, which is a great take on the way that these kinds of dudes on a map games will operate. So you have a god and your followers and your warriors that you then throw across the board and try to take over some aspects. Now it's a little bit more complex than just taking over an area or what you might just call area control, because the way that you gain points from controlling that area is a little nuanced. You have these different monuments that you try to control, and you get points out of those monuments. And in true Eric Lang style, you also have what they called in one of his earlier games the Loki strategy, which is even if you lose a battle, you can still gain some extra points. So you might be trying to lose a battle, throwing a battle if you like, to try and get some points out of it.
Very sneaky, because obviously there are a lot of people with spears on this board. That, when I first encountered it, made me think, yes, this is going to be a game about conquest and murder. I was only sort of maybe a quarter right, because most of the game is not about battles. You can win quite handily without fighting, right?
Right, and there are 5 particular points in the game where you do have conflict. And so you resolve all the conflict across the board in number order. So each of the different regions are numbered, and you're going to resolve them one at a time. And you look at the extent to which your military might is strong within that particular region, but then you also look at the monuments, as I mentioned, but you can also build monuments. So when you resolve that particular area, you actually play one of your cards. Each player that has a figure in that particular area will then play a card, and some of those cards will allow you to do some slightly tricky things, like call down a plague of locusts, which might then kill off or try to kill off everyone in the particular region.
Very biblical.
And you're also bidding using your followers. So those lowly followers that are following your god around, you sort of sacrifice them.
Literally putting their lives on the line.
Literally.
Yeah. You know, and to build the big monuments, also putting their lives on the line. You just, you put a lot of people's lives on the line as an Egyptian god, because you are lasting thousands of years.
Yep, you don't
care about the petty lives of your followers. But I like this idea that the conflict eras are not simple battles. You know, this game thematically takes place over thousands of years. And those conflict periods are places of building, or places of battling over control of areas, but also dividing up the map and building more monuments. I said the building monuments already. I can't help it. Sorry. Egypt has a lot of monuments.
And some of those monuments are temples, so to your particular god. There are obelisks, which allow you to pull in some extra forces when a battle starts in that region. And then you also have the pyramids. And the reason that those are particularly interesting relates to these Ankh powers that you have. So one of the actions that you can take during the game is to improve and to lock in one of these Ankh powers. Some of the Ankh powers relate to these monuments specifically.
The Ankh powers are sort of like the game's way of becoming more and more asymmetrical.
Yeah.
We start off pretty equal in terms of powers.
Yeah, but we have one particular extra feature or bonus action.
To make our gods feel special. Not
Right.
just to have like a cool mini of them, but to actually have a little bit of like mechanical flavor. But other than that, it's pretty much equal, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the 4 actions that you can take start with moving, right? So you can move your figures across the board. You can move all of the figures that you have on the board up to 3 spaces each. And once you've made that move action, you move this little token one along this track, and then you can take a second action, and your second action for your turn has to be one that's lower down on this set of 4. The second one in the set is the summon figures action, and that one allows you to bring just one figure onto the board. The third action allows you to gain followers. There you gain followers based on whether you're next to some of your own monuments or whether you're next to a neutral monument. And then the last one is to unlock Ankh powers. So if you take that action, you can then buy some extra powers. And then some of them are really quite strong. So some of them relate to battles, some of them relate to when you're building monuments, the cost of that. And then in the third column of Ankh powers, you have some very strong powers that relate to your victory points, essentially. And when you reach the end of the track on any one of these 4 actions, you then trigger an event. And this is one of the parts of the game that I really enjoyed as well. You know, you might take a different action so that you don't trigger the event, but then you might leave that event for somebody else.
Because of course, triggering the event does have a lot of benefits, but also you lose out on maybe having your second action of your turn. A lot of strategic thinking goes into this.
I think so. And then one of my favorite of these events is the camel event, where you split a region into 2. And you use these little camels to split the region, and the region has to be at least 6 hexes, which means that each of those regions is relatively big, but you can really spoil someone's plans by doing that, right? Because a person might be trying to dominate a particular region and you could split them up. So you could decide, based off of what's good for you, where that line should be drawn.
Yeah, radically like reshaping the map. It's a huge tactical advantage. I have examined these camels in detail, and look, one of the best things about this game is the attention to detail that the designers put into it. It is truly wonderful to look at these little models of camels, which could just have like, oh, we've knocked out a camel and we've put a bunch on there. But no, they put 4 different designs, unique designs of camel. Right there. How unnecessary is that? What kind of person has that degree of love and passion to give to a camel? Who? The guys who make this game, that's who.
And that's in the base game as well. So it's not even the Kickstarter special or anything like that. I mean, this mat, the player mat that we're playing on, was a specific add-on in the Kickstarter campaign. Apart from that, we're playing with pretty much the basic version of the game, the retail version of the game. In the Kickstarter special, you get, instead of these cardboard monuments, you actually get plastic miniatures for those as well. So you can imagine the table presence that the game has once you've got all of those extra pieces in it.
Very sexy, very sensual, gorgeous. I mean, beautiful, nice, it's pleasant, whatever. Don't look at me like that. I like a miniature.
And speaking of miniatures, there are also these guardians that are an addition to the game. At certain points, when you increase your Ankh powers, you can uncover one of these scarabs. And when you uncover the scarab, you then are eligible to get one of the guardians.
Yeah. Cat mummies, regular mummies, giant scorpions, regular scorpions, other things, horrible things full of bows and arrows and all kinds of violence. But actually, most of them just have like really cool powers, and it really pushes the asymmetry of the 2 sides, which is something like I really appreciate.
And they're not super overpowered, right? I mean, they generally have a power that you need to think a little bit about. Like one of them that I enjoyed was the one that can move onto a space that's already occupied and bump someone into a different space, and thereby moving them potentially into a different region. And I thought that's quite a nifty little way, especially because there are not that many of those sorts of powers in the game.
This game requires an extremely strategic mind because it's got a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that rapidly become asymmetrical and a lot of ways that you can push your own agenda and mess with other people's plans. That's why I hated it.
I'm sorry, John. I mean, I know it's hard to lose a game.
I'm not a sore loser. Before we get into like the whole John losing thing, which is not a thing, by the way, it's not a thing. It's like I just want to underline that, not a thing. Let's talk about the victory track.
One of the ways that you can win the game is to just get to the top of the track.
Yeah.
Right. So pretty straightforward.
That's why it's called the victory track.
So if you reach 80% of the event track and you haven't gotten yourself out of the red section, you are eliminated from the game. So there's even an opportunity, there's a possibility that all players could be eliminated from the game. It's unlikely.
But then does the person who's like the furthest ahead win?
No.
But
everybody loses.
Everyone loses.
Yeah.
Why does...
I've never seen it
happen.
happen.
Have a game when everyone loses.
I've never seen it happen.
That's absurd.
It is pretty absurd, but it's unlikely to happen. The other way that you would then win is more likely, which is you get to the end of the game, nobody's reached all the way to the end, but then whoever's furthest ahead is going to win.
Okay, I kind of like that this attitude of like, you've got to actually be worthy to win this game. You know, we're not just going to let anyone win just by being better than the other players. You've still got to be good in your own right.
It's like a minimum requirement, you know,
Yeah.
Otherwise you don't even get to take the final exam.
Yeah, rude.
And speaking of rudeness, one thing that people have found to be quite rude about the game is the fact that you could end up merging with another god. So if you're playing with at least 3 players, the bottom 2 players will merge at one point in the game.
Yeah, I take umbrage with this mechanic. If I am losing a game, I would like the game either to end more quickly or me to exit the game so I can go make myself a cup of tea and sulk in it. I don't want to like have to buddy up with the other loser to continue playing. What is that? I don't like that.
And I really thought I was going to hate it, but I've seen it work pretty well. Like I have seen every time that it's happened in a game that I've played, and I've played it at 3 players and also at 5. I think it does work quite well, where the merged god actually gets pretty close to winning. I haven't seen them win yet, but I have seen them come pretty close to the top of the track.
All right, call me back when you see them winning. That's what even then, I don't want to share victory with some other loser. What is this? But I'll tell you what I do like about this mechanic. All right? This mechanic is just a loving tribute to the actual history of the ancient Egyptian gods. You know, you currently are playing the god Amun, and also available is the god Ra. And historically, those two did merge, Amon-Ra. You know, so this has got historical precedent, and that's the kind of detail that I really appreciate about the designer's approach to making this game. It is made with a real love for Egyptian history and mythology.
And Eric Lang did the same with Blood Rage, and he did the same with Rising Sun. You know, those were 3 games that he really wanted to make. And that trilogy, I own each of those games now. It's a prized trilogy in my collection. I love the fact that he's spent so much time thinking about that. You know, way before he started designing games, he was thinking about these mythologies and others, and I kind of hoped he would continue and not just stop at 3 games, but he doesn't seem to be going to other mythologies.
He achieved all that he set out to achieve, and now he's hanging up his hat.
He is.
Is that real?
No, he's not making any more in it's a trilogy.
Well, so yeah, I mean that's what a trilogy means.
No, but it didn't start as a trilogy. So when the first game came out, it wasn't like, oh, there's only going to be 3 of them. It was only when the 3rd one was released they said, okay, that's the end. That's it.
Okay.
So I thought there would be 4 or 5. I mean, I thought he'd go for some of the standard ones like the Greek mythologies, or maybe even if you're going to go off the wall, something like an Indian mythology or something, which would be,
Or Mali. Mali has great that empire.
So many good African,
so many good things. Yeah.
Yeah, mythologies, which they really could have gone into. But maybe
Yeah.
there's a gap in the market there.
Do you hear that? There's a gap in the market. Some designer with passion and drive and a good Kickstarter strategy. Step in there. Step up. We want to hear it from you.
We do.
Closing remarks?
I love this game. I really do. I can't get enough of it. I waited for more than a year to get my Kickstarter version brought from London. Thank you, Pete, for bringing it all the way from London. And it was worth the wait. It was such a great experience. I have no negative things to say about this game.
And despite the fact that I was beaten roundly at it several times and I derived little or no enjoyment from playing this game and allowing a deal to really fracture my sense of ego and self, I still really admire this game. Like, I admire anyone who brings this amount of passion, detail, and just care in every aspect. It's bravo. It's not a game for me, but it is a very good game.
Fair enough.
I think you mean Pharaoh enough.
I was waiting for that. I was.
No, you weren't.
I was waiting for that. Well, this has been Bored to be Wild. I'm Adhil.
I'm John.
We'll see you on the flip side after you've subscribed.
Yeah, and also maybe go across and actually check out our Patreon. We've got a lot of interesting tiers where you get interesting benefits, especially if you are a fan of our D&D and roleplay content. There's all kinds of resources and fun things for you there. Otherwise, yeah, just leave us a comment. Let us know what your favorite Egypt-themed game is and how much you missed me.
Shall we give it another go?
No, I don't want to. I don't want to be crushed. I hate the crushing.
Come on, John.
Being crushed is my least favorite thing.
But I love it. Do it for me.
Fine.
Okay, come on.
Let me embrace the sweet, sweet oblivion of defeat.